Jokey on the track.
Welcome. How do I start this? This is episode 1 of The Adventures of a Naive Poet. And before I start going into any stories, I really want to be transparent as to what it is what is the goal here? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to reach here? What am I trying to do? I really just want to tell my story, and through the telling of that story, the testimony of these adventures I've had in the realm of spoken word poetry, hip hop, and so forth. I've been on the planet for over half a fucking century, and I have lived on the East Coast, the West Coast, North, South. I've been around the world. And I've got all of these freaking stories, so I figured I would just tell those stories. Now, the goal in telling those stories is to build some type of community. I was actually watching a young fellow on television, very, very prolific rapper, and I got inspired by this young man because of something he said. He was just like, there is no black agenda. What is the black agenda? Jewish people have an agenda, and the agenda is never again. It will never happen again. And this was very striking to me. And it made me think. I was like, well, damn, what is the black agenda? And expounding on that, I was asking myself, what is the agenda for the arts, in particular the spoken word? What is the agenda for that? Is there an agenda for hip hop? That is an agenda that is set by the creators of the art. What is the agenda? And then I started noticing a whole bunch of things through my own experiences coming up that I was like, I don't believe there actually is. I believe individuals have their own agendas, but I don't necessarily believe that there is a collective that has set an agenda on their own and is trying to execute that. Actually, let me rephrase that. I'm sure there is a collective that has their own agenda. And there are collectives all over the place. My goal with this video blog, is try to circle the wagons, try to put all of those women and men in the same room and figure out what is the poetic agenda and what is the black agenda, if that is possible, if this message will reach those like-minded thinkers like me. I am the novelist, author, poet Lamont Anthony Wright, aka Graffiti Bleu, and I won't be taking a lot of your time. What I will say is this. I will give a story as to kind of how I got my start so that you could kind of know where I'm coming from. Born and raised in New York City, I was born in the Bronx, raised mostly in Manhattan and Queens. One of my first forms of artistic expression was writing. I would try to copy the graffiti letters that I saw that littered the streets of New York. However, in doing that, I would write poetry in graffiti letters. Now, a lot of people that know me from my roots in New York may believe that hip hop was actually rap music, or me rapping, me being a lyricist, was the first form of my artistic expression, but that actually is not necessarily true. I was writing poetry in 10th grade at Thomas Edison High School. My shop teacher, Mr. Schaefer, was extraordinarily frustrated with me because I wasn't paying attention to the job that I was given at this heating, ventilation, and air conditioning school. My job was to build a boiler and the headers and the risers and all of that jazz, and make a system that worked, that could heat up and not have any leaks and all such things. I wasn't interested in that. I was interested because it was creativity. It was a form of creativity, but I was more interested in writing these words down. So I would write poems in class. Mr. Schaefer found this poem and he was very upset with me, but he really liked the poem and he had it published in the high school magazine, newspaper, or what have you. He then calls my parents up to parent-teacher night, unbeknownst to me, and was just like, Mr. Wright is brilliant if I could get him to focus. But it seems like his focus are these words. And he showed my mother the published poem. I believe the poem was called Heart-Shaped Cage. And my parents were also not necessarily taken aback. My mother pretty much knew where it came from. You know, parents know their children, don't they? So they were not necessarily that mad. It wasn't like I was failing the class, but I needed to dial in a little bit more. So parents come home and they talk to me. And I tighten up a little bit, but I still have this love of language that I'm dealing with. That would develop into hip hop. That would develop into a very close to a record deal but no cigar type of deal. Turned me off of the arts completely. Went to college, got a degree, visited the arts later. Now I'm in Atlanta and MySpace is popping. MySpace is super popular, and I'm writing poetry again, and I'm kind of making the rounds, and I'm becoming a bit infamous on MySpace for these poems and these stories that I'm writing on my MySpace blog. Well, there was kind of a rival poet on MySpace, and he was taking videos of himself. And I had been on the stage doing rap music since I was 16, 17. So it wasn't the stage that necessarily frightened me, but I had never been on the stage as a poet. Now that I'm an adult, or a young adult in his late 20s, early 30s. So I'm just like, And these poets, in their mind, I guess, thought they were intimidating me. I suppose a lot of poets thought they were intimidating me. And the competitiveness of this MySpace realm. But I found a lot of the poets to be more loud than profound. And after you were kind of cultivated in the streets of hip hop, the hip hop crowds were way tougher than any poetry crowd. So I, needless to say, was not necessarily intimidated. But I was still a bit reluctant to speak out because it was a new art form that I was exploring. And then I just made my debut after hanging out in the back of Atlanta's Apache Cafe and Atlanta's Cass Cafe. I just started speaking out. And here I am as of today. As these episodes go on, I will explore, and I will explore through testimony. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to assist in building some type of infrastructure. Now I say that with this one caveat. I have no idea if this is what the poetry community wants. I have a hunch that there are many in the poetry community looking for this type of information. I have a hunch that the poetry community is looking for somebody or a group of somebodies to set an agenda and proceed with start building the skeletons of an infrastructure so that it will still be hard to monetize talent that is a very niche thing. Poetry is a very niche thing. However, I don't want to subscribe to the fact that there is no money in poetry, because I don't believe that at all. I believe we are as strong as we are united. And I really see the community very divided right now. So hopefully this blog, along with other people doing other things, as in participating, if you are an artist of any kind, share this. Like this video, share this video, hit the subscribe button. If you're an artist, you understand the struggle, and it is necessary very necessary that we help move each other forward. Okay? And that's just what it is. It's your main man, Lamont Anthony Wright, aka Graffiti Bleu. This is episode 1 of the adventures of a naive poet. Kind of told you how I got my start, and I got many other stories. Some of good times, others not so good times. See you next time.